All right, next up, picking at 1-5, we have Green Gables Gunslingers. Just a little background on him. He is good old Zion Bellringer's older brother, for those of you who are not familiar with him. And as the elder brother, he was the number one seed back in 2011. I feel the need to mention that, although that wasn't last year. He was the number one seed, and that's pretty big. We'll look across his roster where you can see how he was the number one seed 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, this is a ridiculously good team. Starting off at the quarterback position, we have Aaron Rodgers, who is flat-out stud. There's not enough good things I can say about Rodgers. He is going to be elite for the next probably 8 years or so. Top quarterback, top three for sure. They've lost Jennings, but people just keep on stepping up there. You lose Jennings, and Cobb is emerging. You lose, before Jennings, it was Donald Driver. Who's going to step up? Well, James Jones had a pretty dang good year, and Randall Cobb stepped up to help for Driver as well. He also has Jake Locker and Christian Ponder. Both are going into their third year and have had up and down careers to this point, but one of them I think will succeed. I believe stronger in Jake Locker, and I like his upside. I liked him coming out. I think he was an underrated prospect. When they were talking about him being drafted in, the second round of the NFL draft or late first, I thought that was good value. When the Titans traded up to get him at 8, or I can't remember if they traded up, but when they went to go get him at 8, I thought that was maybe a bit of a stretch, but still, I like him there, and I like the team. They've added Hunter, and they have Britt and Kendall Wright, so they have a lot of youth and a lot of upside there in that offense, as long as Locker can put it together. So he's got a good A at his quarterback spot. Looking down at running back, he's got 2 running backs who are getting a little bit older, a little long in the tooth, with Steven Jackson and Chris Johnson. Both of them are 27 or older. Johnson, I think he might be 28 now. I'm not even sure. But he's got, maybe 2 years left. Steven Jackson, it's even a question if he has 1 year left. He's been brought to Atlanta, where I imagine he'll get spelled a bit by Quiz Rogers, but he'll still probably, the Falcons would probably like to give him 250 carries or so, along with, receptions and everything. Chris Johnson is in a similar boat. He'll probably be looking at 250 to 300 carries, lighten the workload a little bit. Both of them I like to have pretty good years, but they're still, like I said, long in the tooth, so it's risky to start 2 guys like that. That being said, behind them, he has one of the hottest offseason guys in Lamar Miller, who a lot of people believe is going to jump from, bottom of the bench back to starting, maybe RB2, even as high as RB1 this year. I hold the phones a little bit on Lamar Miller. I like him a lot. That being said, I sold high on him in a couple of leagues and acquired the 1-1 as well as some other things for him in one league. I sold him in another league for, I want to say it was like the 1-7 and a next year's first or something like that. I like Miller. It's not that I don't like him, but people are handing it to him already. And I think that they're going to have a nice mixture of backs. Daniel Thomas is junk, but I still think that Lamar Miller is, or Daniel Thomas is enough to take a chunk of his carries away this year. I don't think they're just going to hand it to him and say, here's 350 carries, Lamar, and him hold up. Miami is in a bit of a flux. They're all the free agents. Everything's changing. I like Miller, though. I do. I'm not saying he's a bad running back 3. He's a great RB3. A lot of upside. He also has Ben Tate, who is a handcuff, but could be more than that next year, and Javid Best, who is a concussion monster. All in all, his running backs are a little older, but solid. At wide receiver, it's really the same boat. He's got Roddy White and Greg Jennings, who are older, but solid, much like Steven Jackson and Chris Johnson. Behind that, he has Emmanuel Sanders, who things were looking good for him when the Steelers, I should say, decided to keep him, but then they drafted Marcus Wheaton, which really puts a dampen on his position with the team. He also has Stephen Hill, John Baldwin, and Lestar Jean, as well as Titus Young. All of these guys are they're all upside guys who have very low floors at the same time. They could all be completely irrelevant, but all 3 of them have stud upside, so they're just wait and see on them. He also has DeVere Posey, who I really like. I hate that he tore his Achilles at the end of the year last year because he was starting to show some flashes. All in all, he's got a lot of, a good combination of youth, of young and old at wide receiver, but he is hurting at the 3 spot, and he's looking like he's going to have to start Emmanuel Sanders to begin the year, and from then on, hope that one of Hill, Baldwin, Gene, and Titus latches on, or Titus latches on somewhere, and the rest of them start to show their true colors and produce. At tight end, he's got Jermaine Gresham, who took a hit with Tyler Eifert drafting, as well as Owen Daniels and Lance Kendricks. Kendricks, I think, will be fine with Cook there, because I think they're two completely different players, and Kendricks will still get his. I think it does cap his upside, because he's not going to be the solo tight end that's going to get 80 catches. And he was a guy that, some people thought was a sleeper coming in, and it doesn't look like that's going to materialize. Owen Daniels is steady, and he had a good year last year, and there's no reason to believe he won't do the same. They didn't bring in another tight end. Jermaine Gresham, like I said, Eifert's in there, so I have him in a league, and I felt really bad when they drafted Eifert, because that double screwed me over. I wanted to, keep Gresham, and in other leagues, I would have loved to draft Eifert with one of my, the 1-8 or something like that, but now I'm like, I don't know, because that's really dicey, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays itself out. But, so let's have a look at his draft picks. He's got the 1-5 and the 113. With the 1-5, both of those picks, I'd be going best player available, because he needs youth at both the running back and the wide receiver spot, and he could even use tight end help. At 1-5, I would probably be giving real consideration to if either of the top two receivers are there. If Tavon's there or Hopkins is there, I take him. I would not rule out Monty Ball if he happens to be there. If Eddie Lacy slides, I'd probably snatch up Lacy. If both of those receivers are gone, say 1, 2, 3, and 4 goes Giovanni Bernard, Tavon, Le'Veon Bell, and, let's see, and DeAndre Hopkins is gone, I would probably put a lot of consideration into Eddie Lacy. That's probably who I'd walk away with in that situation. At 113, I normally would not advise to do this, but I would probably draft Tyler Eifert if he's there, because you have Gresham. It's not a dilemma I'd like to have. Generally, you don't handcuff tight ends. But Gresham's contract is out after this year, and if Eifert shows enough as a rookie, he's going to be the future. And Gables has the luxury of being able to sit that tight end because he has Daniels and Gresham, and just wait to see what happens. And I'm sure he'd be kicking himself, a year down the road, if Eifert is that guy and Gresham moves on to another team, and he didn't pick him up, with a late first. So that's what I would be considering there. I'd also like to send a shout-out to Green Gables Gunslingers, because I understand he's a Texans fan. Hopefully we can take it a little further this year. I'm from Houston myself. So, Bulls on parade, as they say here. In terms of his total team, I think Green Gables Gunslingers is a playoff contender. I wouldn't say he's a favorite. There's a lot that could go wrong with this team because of the age at his top two running backs and his top two receivers. Because of their age, you just never know. They're more susceptible to injury. If everyone stays healthy, this is a playoff team for sure. If he even loses, say, one wide receiver, if just Roddy, gets hurt, then he's in big trouble. If just Chris Johnson gets injured, or if just Steven Jackson falls off a cliff, this goes from a playoff team to a team that could be looking at a very high draft pick. But if everything goes well, he could be in the postseason. But we'll wait and see. It's going to be an interesting year for the Triple G. So good luck with your picks.